In the Leah Vincent interview with Katie Couric, she used the term that my family disowned me. She says that when she returned from Israel, she started dressing in a more provocative manner, and her parents asked her to move out of the house, I believe, so that she doesn't influence other members of her family. And so that's her story. And now, on Facebook, I see from Perry Reich that she says that recently people have been approaching her with various questions about her past, and she says most of them are judgmental and cynical, and she tells them, I'm going to tell you what disown means. So she says that she recently moved into a new house, and she notified her parents that she just relocated, and with her children, like she has at least joint custody of them, and they wouldn't visit her. They refused even to acknowledge, to respond to the phone calls or the text messages that she sent them. And then, what happens then is that her ex-husband picks up the children, and over the weekend, and then her parents go visit the children and take them out for some entertainment, while the children are at her ex-husband's house. And so the children come back and they tell her, like, what's going on? What happened? Bobby and Zaidi, they wouldn't come visit you, even though they're your parents, and rather they come and visit Tati, meaning the daddy, even though there isn't a blood relation in that between them. So this is of course very disturbing for a child. They don't understand what's happening here. So she says, this is what I call disowning a child, disowning a daughter. So this is actually this begs the question: what does really the word disown mean, and can this properly be used in this context? And what is the correct term that people should use? People who are OTD, off the derech, they've left the community, and they no longer practice, and they're at various stages of of either dissociating themselves from their parents or reconciling. This is a very rough road in terms of relationships with the community, but more specifically and more wrenchingly with regard to relations with parents. And so, what is the proper terminology to use? So the word disown, I looked it up in the dictionary, and this confirmed my original understanding of the term, which is that it is to repudiate and to deny association. Not association. To deny ownership or responsibility for something. That's disown. Okay, so for example, if you're, say, a child and in need of care from your parents, and if your parents disown you, it means they're not going to provide for you. Okay, so if you're, let's say, a big executive in a company, and somebody in your company does something, but without, usually, or at least sometimes they're doing it in the name of the company, in line of duty, but if they are not, then you say you disown their actions, or you disown them completely, and fire them. Okay, they're not acting on behalf of the company. So, this is properly the definition of disowning someone. Now, in the case of Leah Vincent, it is sort of used correctly because she was still a minor, or so she claims. Or even, we don't have to technically, figure this out if it's 17 or 18 or 16. The actual age, in my opinion, doesn't really matter that much. It's more of, would you have expected your parents' support in this situation? And if you do, and if normally parents would still provide for you, and they don't, then yes, they disowned you. Meaning they're saying, I don't own this person, and I don't provide for them, I don't take responsibility for them. So it's sort of used correctly. The only criticism that I have against Leah Vincent in this case is that, what did you expect? I mean, if you're a minor and you break the rules of the community in a very close-knit, insular, and dogmatic community as the Haredi sector is, then do you really expect for them to just tolerate that and to say you can do whatever you want, but we're still gonna? I mean, this is a two-way street. It's a covenant. It's a contract. I mean, it's a social contract. You abide by the rules of the community, and the community will support you and aid you wherever it can. So it's an unrealistic expectation for her to make a move that infuriates the community by openly violating their standards of behavior, and at the same time expect them to support you. So this is why I question that term, but I understand it. Okay, so use disown, and that's okay. Now, in the case of Reich, it's even more dubious, the use of this term, because but her story is about parents taking action to alienate themselves, dissociate themselves from their daughter. Okay, they don't want to visit their daughter. They don't want to acknowledge her phone calls. They don't want to participate in her joy of relocating and things like that. So this is what we see here is not being in their company and not wanting to give them emotional and social support. That's what we see here. We don't see denying responsibility or ownership. So disown in her case is I don't think the correct term. Rather, I think dissociate is a good term here, and there's another word that I want to use here, ostracize. Okay, this is a very pertinent term in this scenario, because the word ostracize comes from it stems from the Greek practice that if someone had policies or opinions or actions that were not popular with the democracy, with the people in Athens, then they would vote. I think it was once a year they could do that, and usually we're talking here about a person of leadership. They have a leadership role in the government, and so if they don't like their style of leadership, their style of political influence, then they would ask them to leave the city. So ostracize, you would write down their name on an ostrakhan, which is a shard of pottery, and they would be forced to leave the city. And essentially they would be exiled, they would be expelled, they would no longer be able to influence the people in an unfavorable way. So by extension, ostracize means whenever someone refuses to associate themselves with someone else. So you ostracize them. So this, I think, is the correct term, and this can certainly be used in terms of the community refusing to be friendly, to be friends with, like to be in the company with somebody who doesn't conform to the rules of the community. So this is very apropos in such a context. Another word, excommunicate, I don't think is appropriate, because excommunicate properly this term was used during the Middle Ages when the church, or sometimes the synagogue, they would pronounce a person not part of the commune, meaning the community of Christ. So you're outside the purview of being saved and part of the church. So you had to, in some cases, you had to physically leave town, or you were not welcome to the church anymore, like the church building, that is, and such. So that's how the term was used during the Middle Ages. And so in this case, for an OTD, a person who's going off the derech, it's difficult to use this because they are choosing, it's voluntary on their part. They are basically proclaiming themselves not bound by the rules of the community. So I don't think it is, it's disingenuous to say that the community is excommunicating them. They are the one choosing to actually excommunicate, if you will, the community. They're saying we no longer are bound by their rules. Okay, so we're going to embark on our own journey, and that's almost invariably the case. I mean, it's not like when the conscience of the tradition that weighs so heavily on every other Haredi person, when that is no longer binding for you, at that point you want to leave. You no longer want to be under their jurisdiction, and so you're the one who is dissociating yourself from the community, rather the community expelling you and excommunicating you. So I think the terms to use here is ostracize is a good term, dissociate is a very good term. The word disown can only be used in summary only if you are still reasonably and justifiably expecting the family and perhaps in certain contexts the community to still support you. If there's no reasonable expectation of support, then they disown. They're not claiming ownership and responsibility for you. Well, of course, but the United States government, they're disowning me because they're not giving me $10,000 a year. Would that be a correct statement to make? Of course not, because I have no reasonable expectation that they should support me. Okay, I'm on my own. I'm an adult, and I have the ability to support myself, in the free market. So the best term is ostracize and dissociate. Alienate could be used in certain contexts. Okay, they're alienating themselves from you, or they're alienating you from the community. I'm not sure, or from siblings. That could be an appropriate term. And if you're talking about an OTD person denouncing their faith or their practices, then repudiate would be a very good term. Repudiate. The word renounce, obviously, is a good term to use, but I think the least loaded term is dissociate. So you would say that your parents are dissociating themselves from you.